Okay, y'all, if you haven't heard, I am pregnant and this is my first trimester little recap video. So first trimester, I'm a first-time pregnancy, so I didn't really know what to expect, but I've heard a lot of stories, and I've had women in my life who of course have had babies, and they told me they spilled all kinds of tea. My experience was actually better than I expected, and I didn't have a ton of terrible symptoms. I had some queasiness in the mornings, but nothing as bad as what I know can happen. Women are just absolute warriors, oh my gosh. The fatigue was real. I would say the fatigue hit me much more than any kind of morning sickness did, which I know lasts all day. It's a complete myth that it's only in the mornings, but for me it actually was in the mornings. I would wake up a little bit queasy, I would have a little bit of smoothie or a little bit of crackers, and then I would kind of start to ease into my day. But the fatigue was real. By around 3 or 4 o'clock, I felt like laid out. So the analogy, or for me, the reference that I was able to use was in the height of my ultramarathon training years ago, when I was logging like 100 miles a week, like it was insane, and working full time. It truly was insane. The fatigue was almost unbearable, almost. So that's kind of what the first trimester fatigue felt like for me. A lot of y'all asked not only about symptoms and what I experienced, but how to combat it. So, I'll be candid, I wasn't laid out, and I know that for some pregnant women, just getting out of bed in the morning is the battle. Do not take this as a point of comparison. You honor your body, you do what you have to do. This is just what worked for me. And of course I can only share my experience because I'm in my body, and that's the only one I know. So this is how I approached training and fuel and everything in the first trimester. So in the mornings I had that little bit of queasiness, so I would eat some saltines, I would drink a little bit of smoothie, and I approached movement as a way to move through that feeling of ick. I felt like I was living like myself, but at like 85%. And I know for some women, it's like, you feel like you're living at 10%. I trust me, I've heard the stories. So honor where you are in the journey, and give yourself grace. I was still teaching the entire time. I had, I think, 5 or 6 projects going on in late summer, early fall, when I was also growing a placenta and a baby. So I kind of had no choice but to focus and execute. But that focus actually helped me. And the other 2 things that helped me were clean eating, continuing to eat as cleanly as possible as a plant-based human, and also movement. So I approached training not from a place of ego, but from a place of capability. And I believe that my workouts, my investment of energy in a workout amplifies my energy later in the day. And that is what I experienced also in my first trimester. So there aren't a lot of modifications that one needs during the first trimester. Your belly isn't growing that big yet, so you could still do pretty much everything. I would say the number one thing that you want to watch out for are the effects of relaxin. It's a hormone that exists, of course, so your body can expand and adapt. It relaxes your joints, and that can affect balance. So any single leg movements, any jumping movements, I allowed the first trimester to kind of be that internal gut check. Very similar to when I was marathon and ultramarathon training, and now in all the training that I do. As an athlete, as a body-aware, self-aware person, you're constantly doing that internal audit of like, how do I feel? How did I fuel? How did I sleep? What movement is gonna honor that today? So again, training from a place of capability rather than ego. And when I was an ultramarathoner, I gave myself a 10-minute rule. So of course I had training plans and all this literature and all these ways that I was supposed to be moving my body. And there were many days where I was just like, it's not happening today. I feel like crap. So I gave myself the 10-minute rule. And I told myself that I'll give any workout 10 minutes, and then I have the option to hit the eject button. 9 times out of 10, I actually think 100% of the time during my first trimester, when applying the 10-minute rule, I was able to make it through my workout. Now again, I wasn't trying to do like max lifts, fastest sprints, crazy output on the bike. I was just trying to move in order to like move through the feeling of queasiness and regain some energy. So there's a tipping point, right? Like if you go too hard in your workouts, that's obviously a deficit that you have to refill. But I kind of lived at that like 7, 8 out of 10 for me as I was feeling at the time, you know, given the factors of fatigue, and that really worked for me. So the 10-minute rule is something that I recommend. And this was also before gyms opened in New York City, so I was still doing a lot of body weight workouts at home. I was just finishing up a Pilates certification, so I was doing a lot of that work, a lot of mat-based work, a lot of movement, stretching, stability, and that I think really, really helped me. Again, with that internal audit, that internal conversation, and that is how I'm approaching pregnancy as a whole. Of course, I'm educating myself. I'm pre- and postnatal certified. I know kind of I know the nuts and bolts of what I need to look out for, and I'm excited to share some of that with y'all as this journey continues. But I also know I am my own closest advocate, and sometimes critic, sometimes advocate, and that is going to be my North Star. I have a curated scope of influence of a medical team, of course, very trusted mothers in my life who I'm going to lean on, and a lot of the other noise, I've got blinders on. I really do believe that I was made for this moment. I am approaching pregnancy from a place of strength. I know that there are going to be curveballs and things that I never even imagined could possibly happen, but I will always choose strength over limitation and lack. And thankfully, so far I've had an experience that really bolsters that. Is there anything you need to be more aware of nutritionally for a plant-powered pregnancy? So protein is a big one, right? So you want to make sure that you're getting the minimum amount of protein, which actually my pre-pregnancy diet already was. I get well over 100 grams of protein a day in my current diet. And you know, as my appetite increases and as my caloric needs increase, I will probably be supplementing with protein-rich foods. My morning smoothie, I drink in 2 parts. Those 2 parts are like 40 grams of protein. And then when you add in lentils and beans and tempeh and tofu and seitan and vegetables, I mean, vegetables have protein. You'd be surprised how quickly, and of course nuts and things like that, you'd be surprised how quickly you can get up there. So yeah, protein is the number one thing. I am also supplementing with a plant-based DHA and a prenatal vitamin, and I take probiotics, and I suffer from low iron, so I take a plant-based iron as well. But you know, again, contact your doctor, do all your blood work. It's not a one-size-fits-all when it comes to supplements. Certainly not when you're dealing with minerals that you don't want an underabundance of, or you don't want a deficit of, or an overabundance. So definitely get that stuff checked out. Was there anything that surprised you about the first trimester? I just didn't have much of an appetite, and my poor husband would be like, do you want this, do you want this, do you want this, do you want this, and I'd just be like, no. The thing that I craved the most are like old school saltines, like old school, like your grandma, your abuela would give you like soup and saltine crackers. I found some grain-free ones that were pretty good from Who Kitchen, but nothing beats the old school salted saltines. That has been like my number one pregnancy craving. Second is the green melon, honeydew melon. There was a night at like 10 p.m. where I woke up with a sense of like urgency, and I was like, Drew, bring the melon. And we don't eat in our room. I've never eaten in bed. I mean, it's like, I don't snack at 10 p.m. Like, it's just so not me. And my head wasn't even off the pillow, and I was shoveling honeydew. Like, it was a mess. I'm so glad I'm still married. It was like not cute. So yeah, that happened. So that was definitely surprising. But I'm thankful that I was able to, I know that there's people have really bad food aversions, and like veggies and salads and stuff are not necessarily the most appealing pregnancy food. But for me, I just, small portions, little by little, just eating a bunch of small meals a day, I managed to maintain my normal fueling routine. All right, last 2 questions. Are you finding out the gender? We don't know yet, and I think we will. I think we'll find out and maybe do some kind of reveal. But we also want to be super mindful of the fact that the binary gender conversation can be just that, can be binary. And I want to honor whatever expression of a human is in my belly, and we want to meet the human where they are rather than impose lots of our own stuff, society's stuff, on the baby. So we're kind of wrestling with that and exploring what that is, but of course we recognize how happy and delightful those moments are for our friends and our family and ourselves. So yeah, we're still TBD on that, but we do not know yet what we're having. We're just calling the baby pequeño. Pequeña. And last question, what excites you the most about becoming a mom? I really see myself as a guide to the soul that's gonna come for this life experience. I have a deep feeling, a deep knowing that I've known this soul before in other experiences and other lives. That's something I spiritually believe in, and so does my husband. I'm excited to create a human who will step into the light and step into their power. And that is also how I'm approaching my pregnancy. I think that kind of energy does affect the creation of the baby and the cells that are activated. So even on my toughest days, as a type 1 diabetic, as a plant-based athlete, as somebody who trains still 6 days a week, 2+ hours a day sometimes, on the good days, I'm approaching it from a place of capability and strength, and just focusing on what I can do that day in the moment with what I have and what I got and who I am. So that is my first trimester pregnancy journey. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. That is all I got, family. Thank you for following along with this growing pequeño in my belly, and I will catch you in the second trimester.